My neighbor sued me for blocking her sacred sunset view with a Barbie dream house diagram. But the judge's reaction? Priceless. What happened next changed everything. The courtroom erupted. I'll never forget the moment Judge Miller, his gavel a peculiar trout-shaped artifact, doubled over in laughter. The HOA's lawyer, Arthur Finch, had just unveiled his grand exhibit, a foam board diorama featuring tiny Lego trees and a Barbie dream house, all meant to illustrate how my illegally tall home dared to obstruct Eleanor Vance's sacred sunset meditation. Are we to assume, the elderly judge wheezed, wiping his eyes, that the Homeowners Association is now presenting evidence based on Mattel products? I simply took a long, slow sip of my iced tea, letting the sheer, delicious absurdity of it all hang in the air. Arthur's face, already flushed, cycled through crimson hues as he stammered about the model being to scale, while Eleanor, beneath her perpetually wide-brimmed hat, bobbed her head like a buoy caught in a storm. I'm Greg Benson, a retired mechanical engineer. All I wanted was to build my dream home on the serene outskirts of Sycamore Bluffs, a quiet, HOA-controlled community nestled in central Colorado. My property, I'd confirmed meticulously with county records and a private surveyor, wasn't even technically within the HOA's jurisdiction. Yet Eleanor Vance, a former cruise director who transformed into a suburban autocrat, viewed my presence as nothing short of an invasion. She ruled with an iron fist, albeit one encased in a pastel gardening glove, and her daily Chardonnay-fueled wine walks were legendary, as were her creatively interpreted bylaws that always seemed to favor her. Her supreme commandment, proclaimed at every HOA meeting with almost religious fervor, was simple. My sunset view is sacred. Imagine that, as if etched onto stone tablets by some divine hand. When my modern two-story house rose just 100 feet away, its natural elevation placing it a mere 12 feet above her precious sightline, Eleanor declared it an act of war, a visual blockade against her evening tranquility. Oh, the drama! It began subtly, as these battles often do. First, official-looking letters arrived bearing the HOA seal, warning of implied HOA airspace intrusion, whatever that meant. Then ominous flyers appeared on every doorstep. Say no to skyline saboteurs, featuring a grainy, red-circled photo of my innocent house. One morning I discovered a plastic flamingo, its beady eyes accusing me, impaled through my mailbox. Eleanor denied everything, of course, but I'd seen those exact same flamingos adorning her garden path. Next came her Sunset Recon Committee, a motley crew of 3 HOA volunteers armed with binoculars, clipboards, and folding chairs, who set up daily surveillance from Eleanor's patio. From 4 to 7 p.m., they'd meticulously document shadow patterns and measure angles with protractors, as if planning a lunar expedition. Can you believe it? One of them, Paul, actually brought a sextant. Then she launched her Save Our Sky petition, cleverly abbreviated SOS, complete with herbal tea samples and an invitation to a view-affirming vigil. What a spectacle. About 30 people showed up, mostly for the free snacks and gossip, holding candles while Eleanor, teary-eyed, recited a poem she'd penned about the sanctity of horizons, dramatically pointing at my house during the climax. I watched from my new deck, struggling to suppress my laughter, realizing she was truly unhinged. The absurdity escalated. Eleanor hired a light consultant, her nephew a theoretical particle physicist desperate for cash. He arrived with an arsenal of equipment, measuring lumens and calculating shadow trajectories like a NASA scientist. His 30-page report, promptly spiral-bound and distributed, claimed my house created sunset shadowing that could plummet property values by 15%. Conveniently omitted was the fact that his expertise had zero to do with architecture or real estate. Eleanor then waged war on the neighborhood Facebook page, posting daily photos of her compromised sunset with captions like, "Another evening stolen," and "Darkness where light should be," tagging me in every post, even though I wasn't on Facebook. My neighbor Mike would text me screenshots, and We'd share a good laugh over coffee, watching the comments section become a battleground between Eleanor's loyal wine moms and those who openly questioned her sanity. Finally, the lawsuit arrived. Vance versus Benson et al., alleging psychological distress and vitamin D disruption due to visual obstruction. I had to read the papers 3 times. Was this a joke? She was suing me for blocking her vitamin D, as if the sun only existed in that specific slice of sky my house supposedly obscured. Her lawyer even included a note from her holistic wellness coach about the critical need for uninterrupted sunset exposure for chakra alignment. In court, Arthur Finch, looking perpetually sweaty and miserable, actually argued that the HOA possessed historical dominion over the aesthetic experience of adjacent territories. He said it with a straight face. But then, as he produced the infamous Lego diorama, Judge Miller, a man who'd seen 40 years of legal bazaar, fought a losing battle against a smile. This demonstrates, Arthur sputtered, his voice trembling, the egregious visual impediment created by the defendant structure. My attorney, the brilliant Lena Hayes, rose calmly. She presented 3 irrefutable facts. First, my land was demonstrably outside the HOA's boundary. Second, their bylaws didn't magically extend beyond their property lines, no matter how much Eleanor wished they did. And third, there was absolutely no legal precedent for sunset supremacy in the entire history of American jurisprudence. She delivered that last point with a direct, piercing gaze at Eleanor, who was frantically scribbling notes and whispering to Arthur. Then came the bombshell. Lena called Mark Davis, a local surveyor with 2 decades of experience. Mark testified that Eleanor's own house was actually 6 feet taller than mine, only built on a lower elevation. He had the charts, the measurements, the whole 9 yards. From certain angles, particularly to the north where several HOA properties stood, Eleanor's house was the true view blocker. Judge Miller let out a loud, echoing wheeze, then burst into uncontrollable laughter, taking off his glasses to wipe his eyes. He ruled decisively. The HOA had no jurisdiction. The lawsuit was a frivolous display of aesthetic authoritarianism, and Eleanor was ordered to pay my legal fees in full, a staggering $32,000. Eleanor's face drained from red to white to an unsettling shade of green I'd never witnessed. Her hat flew off as she shrieked about a travesty of justice and threatened to appeal to the Supreme Court. Arthur, utterly defeated, quietly packed his Lego display. A polite, muffled applause rippled through the courtroom from the few neighbors who'd come to witness the spectacle. I offered a discreet bow, savoring my vindication. Eleanor stormed out, muttering about solar rights and spiritual energy zones, her heels clacking angrily. The best part? She tried to dramatically slam the courtroom door, but it had a slow closing mechanism, so it simply whispered, "Shut," leaving us all to watch its pathetic retreat. Eleanor's reign was truly over. I hosted a neighborhood cookout, which I gleefully christened Barbecue and Blocked Views. My yard was filled with reclining chairs and sun hats, and I even set up cardboard cutouts of Eleanor's monstrous colonial home at various angles, each labeled, "This is the real problem," with arrows pointing directly at her house. Guests received commemorative t-shirts. I survived the sunset lawsuit, adorned with a cartoon house blocking a sun. That evening, I live-streamed the entire sunset in glorious 4K, jazz music playing softly. The footage, #ChuckReach hysteria, went mildly viral, racking up 50,000 views and countless stories of HOA horrors. Someone even turned Eleanor's stern newspaper photo into a meme. Karen demands to speak to the Sun's manager. Local news picked up the story, and Eleanor became the poster child for HOA overreach. 3 months later, after attempting to ban reflective windows and oversized clouds, Eleanor Vance was quietly voted off the HOA board. The vote was unanimous, save for her own, as she accused everyone of conspiracy and weather manipulation. Now she conducts solo sunset meditations in her backyard, facing a mirror to reflect the view she claims she lost. Though we all know she never lost anything but her grip on power. As for me, I installed a retractable second-floor deck, which I affectionately call the Vance platform. There I host friends, serving cocktails like Cornetta and Bylaw Breeze, and watch the sunsets. The $32,000 she paid me covered the deck and left enough for a magnificent telescope. Sometimes when I spot her watching from her window, I subtly point it right at the sunset just to make a point.